It was a peaceful day at the Siler 7 space station. The station, floating high above the distant planet of Andor, had been a research outpost for years. Inside, the station's crew, a small group of scientists and engineers, were used to the quiet hum of the machinery and the occasional communication from Earth. However, none of them were prepared for what was about to happen. Commander Alice Moore had just finished a routine check on the station's energy levels when the alarm suddenly went off. The computer's voice echoed through the station. "Unidentified object approaching. Please prepare for contact." Alice stood frozen for a moment. The crew had been trained for first contact scenarios, but nothing could have prepared them for this. The object appeared on their radar, a small, sleek spaceship, unlike anything they had ever seen before. It didn't look threatening, but it was certainly unfamiliar. With a calm voice, Alice spoke into the intercom. "All crew, gather in the central command room. We have company." The team assembled quickly. Dr. Martin, the station's lead biologist, and Lieutenant Ben, the communications officer, were the first to arrive. Martin was busy adjusting his glasses, while Ben was nervously tapping his foot. "Is it an alien ship?" Ben asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "We don't know yet," Alice replied, "but it's definitely not from Earth. Prepare the communication channels." Dr. Martin was already scanning the incoming signal. "I'm picking up something. It's not in any language we know, but the patterns suggest it's intentional. They want to communicate." The crew worked together, setting up translation algorithms and preparing to make first contact. The air was thick with anticipation. After a few moments of silence, the strange alien ship finally docked at the space station. A small hatch opened on the side of the ship, and out floated a single figure. The figure was unlike anything they had expected. It wasn't tall or menacing, but rather small and round, floating in a sort of transparent bubble. The being had large, expressive eyes that gleamed with curiosity. It was about the size of a child, with a body that seemed to be soft and almost jelly-like. Its skin shimmered in various shades of blue and green, and it floated gently towards the open doors of the station. "Is that an alien?" Ben asked, wide-eyed. "Seems like it," Alice replied, her voice a mix of awe and caution. "Stay calm." The alien slowly floated into the station's central room, where the crew had gathered. It hovered in front of them, blinking its large eyes as if studying each person. Its voice, high-pitched and melodic, filled the room. The translator device began to work immediately, converting the alien language into English. "Greetings, beings of the floating station," the alien said, its voice filled with curiosity. "I am Zira of the Tirana people. I come in peace." The crew exchanged looks. They were all still processing what was happening. Dr. Martin, the biologist, stepped forward, trying to maintain composure. "Hello, Zira. We welcome you to our station," Martin said, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm Dr. Martin, and these are my colleagues, Alice, Ben, and the rest of our crew." Zira blinked rapidly, as though trying to understand their words. "I am curious," she said. "I have traveled across the stars to learn about your species." Alice smiled, trying to make the alien feel comfortable. "We're happy to share. What would you like to know?" Zira's large eyes focused on Alice, and her body rippled with excitement. "I have many questions, but one is most important. I have heard strange stories about how your species reproduces. Is it true that humans create life by touching each other?" The question hit the crew like a splash of cold water. It was completely unexpected. Everyone in the room froze for a moment, unsure of how to answer. Zira, however, didn't seem to notice their discomfort. She floated closer to them, her wide eyes shining with innocent curiosity. "I do not understand," Zira continued. "In my species, we reproduce through scientific processes. We do not have the connections you describe. Can you explain this process? What is this touching you speak of?" Alice exchanged a glance with Dr. Martin, who looked just as baffled as she felt. This was not a conversation they had prepared for. Still, the idea of educating an alien about human intimacy felt odd yet fascinating. Alice cleared her throat, trying to find the right words. Well, Zira, it's not just about touching. It's about connecting with another person, emotionally and physically. It's a way for humans to express love and build families. Alice explained carefully. It's more than just a biological process. There's an emotional connection, a bond that forms between people. Zira tilted her head, absorbing the explanation. I see. That is very different from my people. We do not have such connections. We share knowledge, not emotions. But I wonder, can I try this? Can I experience this touching you speak of? The question hung in the air like an awkward silence. The crew wasn't sure how to respond. It wasn't a request that anyone had expected, but Zira's innocent curiosity was hard to resist. It was clear she wasn't asking out of any ill intent. She simply wanted to understand. Before anyone could say anything, Zira's eyes twinkled with excitement. I want to learn more. Perhaps you can show me how to form this connection. Can we try it now? The crew was caught off guard. It wasn't an easy topic to explain, let alone demonstrate. But Zira's earnestness and her adorable, innocent appearance made it hard to say no. Alice smiled awkwardly, realizing that this might be the strangest first contact in history. The room was quiet after Zira's question. It felt as though time itself had frozen, leaving the crew to process what had just been said. Zira floated gently in front of them, her large eyes shining with innocent curiosity, completely unaware of the awkwardness she had caused. The crew exchanged glances, unsure of how to answer the alien's unexpected request. Commander Alice Moore was the first to speak, trying to find a way to explain things without making the situation even more uncomfortable. Zira, let's start by understanding a little more about your species, Alice said, her voice calm but thoughtful. You mentioned that your people don't form emotional connections the way we do. Could you tell us more about that? Zira's eyes lit up as she eagerly responded. Of course. In my culture, we don't form bonds through touch or emotions. Instead, we share our knowledge and experiences with each other. Our connections are intellectual, not physical. We exchange information in a way that allows us to understand each other's thoughts, but not our feelings. Dr. Martin, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. So, your species values knowledge and intellect more than emotional connection? He asked, his scientific mind trying to make sense of it. Yes, Zira replied, her voice almost musical in its high-pitched tone. We have great respect for intellect. We believe that understanding each other's thoughts, ideas, and discoveries is the most important thing. Emotions are complicated. They can sometimes interfere with our ability to communicate clearly. That's why we avoid them. The crew found this concept fascinating. It was completely different from the human experience, where emotions played a central role in relationships, communication, and even decision-making. Alice found herself intrigued by the idea of a society that prioritized logic over feelings. It was a viewpoint that was both foreign and thought-provoking. So, you're saying that your species never experiences love or friendship in the way humans do? Ben, the communications officer, asked, his voice filled with curiosity. Zira seemed to ponder this for a moment. We understand the concept of friendship, yes, but it is based on shared goals and understanding, not emotional connection. We work together because we respect each other's knowledge. It is not about feeling affection or love. That's something I have trouble understanding. I want to know more about it. Alice could see that Zira was genuinely interested in learning about human emotions. There was no malice in her question, no strange intent. It was just the kind of curiosity that came with encountering something new and unknown. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, Alice felt a sense of warmth toward the alien. Zira wasn't trying to be disrespectful. She simply didn't know how to navigate the complex world of human emotions. Well, Alice began carefully. Love and friendship are very important to humans. They help us form deep bonds with others, and those bonds often lead to families. We connect with people not just through our minds, but through our hearts. Emotions like love, care, and trust help guide us in our lives. They make us feel connected to others, even when we're far apart. Zira floated closer, her eyes widening with interest. And these emotions, you feel them because of physical touch? She asked. Alice hesitated. It wasn't easy to explain such a personal topic, especially to an alien who couldn't fully comprehend the human experience. Well, physical touch is one way we express emotions, Alice said. When we hug someone, for example, it's a way of showing that we care. It's not just about the action itself. It's about what it represents, the connection we share with that person. It's a way of showing that we're there for each other. Zira floated back slightly, clearly processing the information. So, you use touch to communicate feelings that you can't say with words. Exactly, Dr. Martin replied, intrigued by how quickly Zira was catching on. Touch is a universal form of communication for humans. It's not just about physical contact. It's about expressing emotions that words can't always capture. Zira's soft, glowing body rippled with thought as she absorbed their words. I see. In my world, we don't need touch to understand each other's intentions. We can sense each other's thoughts directly. It's how we communicate. Alice smiled gently. That sounds amazing, Zira. But I think it's the emotions, love, care, friendship, that make us feel truly connected. They guide our decisions and shape our relationships. Zira seemed deep in thought for a moment, her glowing eyes dimming as she reflected on this new information. But why does it matter so much to you? You say that love helps you make decisions. Does it not complicate things? What if love leads to mistakes? The question was insightful, and Alice paused, carefully considering how to explain the complexities of human emotions. Yes, love can be complicated. It doesn't always make things easy, but it also makes life richer. It helps us feel joy, empathy, and even sadness. Those emotions teach us important lessons about who we are and what we care about. They make us more human. Zira floated closer again, her curiosity bubbling over. You really value these emotions, don't you? Yes, we do, Ben added, his nervousness starting to fade. Even though emotions can sometimes lead to difficult situations, they help us understand each other better. They give us a sense of connection, a reason to care about the people around us. Zira blinked slowly, clearly processing everything they had said. I understand now. Emotions are not something to avoid. They are a part of what makes you human. Alice smiled, relieved that the conversation was going in a positive direction. Exactly. Emotions are a fundamental part of who we are. As Zira hovered in the middle of the room, her mind clearly racing with the new information, the crew felt a sense of accomplishment. They had taken the first step toward bridging the gap between their two species. It wasn't easy, and there were still many questions to answer, but they had made progress. Zira turned her gaze back to Alice and the others, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Thank you for sharing this with me. I still don't fully understand, but I want to learn more. Perhaps one day I can experience these emotions myself. The crew couldn't help but smile. It was a strange and unexpected journey they had embarked on, but one thing was clear. Their connection with Zira was just beginning. The next few days aboard the Sci-Fi 7 space station were unlike any the crew had ever experienced. Commander Alice Moore, Dr. Martin, Lieutenant Ben, and the rest of the team had quickly grown accustomed to Zira's innocent curiosity and endless questions. The alien was fascinated by every little detail about human life, from food to clothing, from emotions to simple daily routines. Each new conversation opened up an entirely new world of understanding for both Zira and the crew. Zira spent much of her time with Dr. Martin, the biologist, who had taken it upon himself to explain Earth's diverse plant and animal life. It was an educational exchange that allowed them both to learn. Zira's species, after all, was a master of intellectual knowledge, but their understanding of the natural world was far more limited. Zira was captivated by how humans cared for living creatures, how they observed, nurtured, and protected the ecosystems of Earth. One afternoon, Zira floated into the station's garden area, where Dr. Martin was working with a small group of plants brought from Earth. He noticed her hovering near the flower beds, her large eyes scanning the plants with an intensity that made him smile. "Zira," Dr. Martin called out gently, "would you like to learn how these plants grow?" Zira's eyes lit up. "Yes, I would love that." She floated closer to the plants, careful not to disturb them. "I've heard about Earth's green things, but I've never seen them up close. They are so different from anything we have." Dr. Martin nodded. "These plants need sunlight, water, and soil. They use sunlight to create energy, something called photosynthesis. It's a process we rely on here to grow food." Zira's expression was a mix of wonder and confusion. "You mean they take energy from the light of your star?" "That's right," Dr. Martin said with a smile. "Without the sun, these plants couldn't live. They rely on the sunlight to grow." Zira floated even closer, studying a small green plant with curiosity. "Fascinating. Your planet has such delicate systems of life. It's different from how we function, but I see how beautiful it is." While Zira was deep in conversation with Dr. Martin, Alice and Ben had their own conversations about the aliens' progress in understanding human relationships. They had been discussing how Zira seemed particularly interested in the concept of family. Every time the topic came up, Zira's eyes would brighten, and she would ask countless questions about how humans formed families, how they took care of each other, and how love played a role in it all. One day, Alice and Zira sat in the station's lounge, chatting over a cup of hot chocolate, an unusual treat that Zira had grown fond of after her first taste. "Zira, tell me," Alice asked, her voice soft, "what do you think about the idea of family? You've asked a lot of questions about it." Zira blinked, her jelly-like body shifting slightly as she thought. "I understand that families are important to humans. You share bonds with others, not just through intellect, but through love and care. You protect each other, support each other. It's fascinating." Alice nodded. "It's the foundation of a lot of human society. Families help shape who we are. They teach us values, love, and how to live in harmony with others." Zira's eyes widened. "But how do you know who to trust? If you share your emotions so freely, how do you know that the bond is real?" Alice smiled, a warm, knowing smile. "Trust is something that builds over time, Zira. It's not just about sharing emotions. It's about being there for each other when it counts. Love isn't just about feelings. It's about actions. It's about showing up when someone needs you, offering a hand when they're struggling, and being loyal, even when things are tough." Zira seemed to ponder Alice's words. "So love is not just a feeling, but a series of actions." "Exactly," Alice replied. "It's not just about saying you love someone. It's about showing it through what you do for them." Zira floated in silence for a while, her large eyes scanning the room as though she were taking in everything at once. Alice watched her, knowing that Zira was processing a lot of new ideas. For the alien, it wasn't just a matter of understanding emotions. It was about experiencing something that was completely foreign to her. As the days passed, Zira's curiosity didn't wane. She spent more time with the crew, asking questions about human history, human traditions, and the bonds that tied them all together. The more she learned, the more she wanted to understand the emotional connections that humans formed with one another. One afternoon, Zira made a request. She wanted to see how humans celebrated their bonds. She asked Alice to teach her about a human tradition called celebration, a time when families and friends came together to mark important events or simply to enjoy each other's company. "Humans celebrate many things," Alice explained. "We celebrate birthdays, weddings, and even the changing of the seasons. It's our way of showing appreciation for each other and for life itself. Zira was fascinated. Is it a special event every time you celebrate? What do you do during these celebrations? Alice smiled. Celebrations can be big or small, Zira. Sometimes it's a party with food and music. Other times it's a quiet gathering with just a few close friends. But the most important thing is being together. Celebrations are about cherishing the people around you. Zira floated closer, her glowing body rippling with excitement. That sounds beautiful. I want to understand how it feels to celebrate with others. Can we celebrate something together? Alice's heart swelled with warmth. Zira had come so far in understanding humans. What had started as an awkward, innocent question about human reproduction had turned into something deeper, an exploration of human emotions, relationships, and the true meaning of connection. Now, Zira wanted to experience a piece of human culture that captured the essence of what she had learned, the value of being together. I think we can arrange something, Alice said with a smile. We'll have a small celebration. Just the crew and you. Zira's eyes gleamed with joy. I can't wait. I want to experience it all. The laughter, the food, the togetherness. And just like that, a new chapter in their unexpected friendship began. Zira was no longer just a visitor from another world. She was becoming part of their human family. The day of the celebration arrived, and the atmosphere aboard the Tyler 7 space station was filled with excitement. The crew had worked together to prepare a small but meaningful gathering, one that would introduce Zira to the joy of human celebration. Alice had chosen the occasion to be a Thanksgiving, a simple celebration of their shared experiences and the bond that had formed between the crew and their alien guest. Zira was particularly eager. She had spent the past few days asking countless questions about human traditions, but she had never experienced a celebration herself. She floated around the central gathering area, observing as Dr. Martin carefully arranged small plants and flowers in the center of the room. Ben, the communications officer, had been busy setting up a simple sound system to play some light, cheerful music. We want everything to be perfect, Alice said with a smile as she entered the room, adjusting a few decorations. It's important that Zira understands the significance of being together. Zira floated near the window, looking out at the stars, her large eyes wide with awe. She had learned much about human emotions and family in the past few days, but this was the first time she would truly experience the joy that humans felt when they gathered together to celebrate. When Zira noticed Alice approaching, she turned toward her, floating down to meet her with an excited expression. Everything is ready, Zira asked, her voice full of anticipation. Alice chuckled. Almost. Just a few last touches. We're going to have a simple meal together and spend time talking and laughing. That's what makes a celebration special. Zira's eyes glistened. I've never experienced anything like this before. I've read about it in your history files, but now I can feel it. I can understand why it's important to you. Alice smiled. You'll see. We've all learned so much from each other, and today we're celebrating that. Soon, the rest of the crew joined in, and they gathered around the table. It was a modest spread, mostly earth foods like simple dishes of pasta, fruits, and vegetables. There were also a few dishes Zira had never seen before. She floated near the table, taking in the smells, trying to identify the different foods. Her curiosity was clear, and everyone could tell how much she wanted to understand every detail. As the crew took their seats, Alice raised a glass, signaling that the celebration was about to begin. To new friendships, Alice said, her voice clear and warm. To knowledge, to curiosity, and to the connections that bind us, no matter where we come from. The crew raised their glasses, clinking them together in a small but meaningful gesture. Zira, unsure of what to do, watched them carefully. Alice smiled and nodded toward her, encouraging her to join in. Zira hesitated for a moment but then floated forward, gently tapping her transparent bubble against the glasses. To friendship, she said, her voice soft but sincere. The crew all smiled, moved by her words. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. Zira was learning. She was beginning to understand what it meant to truly connect with others. They began to eat, and Zira tentatively tried some of the food. The texture was strange, and she had to adjust to the new flavors, but her eyes lit up in delight when she tasted the sweetness of the fruits. "This is unlike anything I've had before," she said, her voice full of wonder. "The flavors are so complex. I can taste the sweetness, the sourness. It's amazing." The crew laughed, glad to see that Zira was enjoying the food. Dr. Martin, who had always been fascinated by the biology of taste, asked her, "Can you taste these things in a similar way to how we do, or is it different for you?" Zira thought for a moment. "It's similar, but not quite the same. My species doesn't experience taste in the same way. We sense nutrients more directly. But this is a whole new experience. I think I understand why humans enjoy food so much." As the meal continued, Zira asked more questions about the food and the traditions associated with it. She was particularly fascinated by the idea of sharing a meal as a way to bond with others. "In my culture," Zira explained, "we share information, but we don't share food. We do not need to consume things in the same way you do. But I can see that sharing a meal brings people closer together." Alice nodded thoughtfully. "Sharing food is a way of sharing part of ourselves. It's an act of trust, of letting others into your personal space. It's a simple, everyday way of showing that you care." Zira's eyes widened with understanding. "So, the food is not just about nourishment. It's about connection." "Yes," Alice replied with a smile. "Exactly. It's about building bonds and showing appreciation for those around you." After the meal, the group sat back, chatting and laughing, just as Alice had promised. There was no rush, no need for anything extravagant. The joy was in the simple act of being together, of taking the time to enjoy one another's company. Zira watched them all with fascination. She had always been curious about the human experience, but now she was beginning to understand the deep emotional connections that made humans unique. As the evening wore on, Zira asked, "Do you do this often? Celebrate, I mean. Does it always bring you happiness?" Alice thought for a moment before answering. "Yes, we do. We celebrate our relationships, our successes, and even our challenges, because life is full of both joy and hardship, and we have to learn to appreciate both." Zira nodded slowly, her glowing body rippling with thought. "I see. This is the part of being human that I didn't understand. The connection, the emotions, the celebration of life itself." Alice smiled. "It's a big part of who we are. And now, you're a part of it too, Zira." Zira's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Thank you. I never thought I could experience something like this. I will remember this celebration forever." As the night drew to a close, Zira looked out the window at the stars. The feeling of togetherness was still with her, a warmth she had never known before. It was a new chapter in her understanding of humanity, a chapter filled with emotions, connection, and the joy of simply being together. The next morning, after the celebration, Zira's glowing form hovered near the observation window, gazing out at the endless expanse of space. The stars twinkled like distant memories, and the vastness of the universe seemed even more profound to her now. She had learned so much in such a short time. Things about humans that she never thought possible. There were still questions lingering in her mind, but she now felt closer to understanding what it meant to be human. Alice entered the observation room and walked up beside Zira, watching her silently for a moment. The crew had noticed a subtle change in Zira since the celebration. She seemed more reflective, more thoughtful, and that gave Alice a sense of pride. Zira was becoming a part of their world, and with each passing day, she was beginning to grasp the intricacies of human emotions. "How are you feeling today?" Alice asked gently, her voice soft and encouraging. Zira turned to face her, her large eyes shimmering with a mix of excitement and wonder. "I feel different," Zira said, her voice almost like a melody. "The celebration, it gave me new thoughts, new questions. I've been thinking about emotions all night." Alice raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of questions?" Zira's gaze shifted toward the stars once more, her mind clearly racing. "I've seen how humans express emotions in different ways. There's laughter, crying, and even silence. But how do you know what to do when you feel something? When you feel joy, sadness, or even anger, how do you understand those feelings? How do you know what they mean?" Alice smiled, understanding what Zira was asking. It wasn't easy to explain emotions, especially to someone who had never felt them the way humans did. But she had learned in the past few days that Zira was capable of grasping concepts she never thought possible. "Well," Alice began thoughtfully, "emotions are complicated. They can be confusing at times, but they are also a guide. They help us understand what we need, what we care about, and how we connect with others. For example, when you feel joy, it's because something makes you happy. It could be the people around you, a memory, or something as simple as a beautiful view. That feeling is a way of telling you that what's happening right now is important to you." Zira tilted her head slightly. "So emotions are like signals, telling you what matters?" "Yes, exactly," Alice replied. "Emotions guide our decisions. They help us choose who we want to be with, what we want to do with our lives, and even how we face challenges. When you're sad, it's your mind's way of telling you that something is wrong or that you've lost something important. But sadness can also help you grow and understand yourself better." Zira's eyes glimmered as she absorbed Alice's words. "I've never thought of emotions that way. Where I come from, we don't experience emotions like you do. We rely on logic to guide our actions." Alice nodded. "I understand. In many ways, logic and reason are important too. But emotions give us a different kind of insight. They allow us to connect with others on a deeper level. You can have all the knowledge in the universe, but without emotions, you would never fully understand the people around you." Zira seemed to reflect on this. Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything. "But isn't it difficult? I've seen humans cry, laugh, even argue. Emotions can sometimes cause pain, confusion, or make things more complicated." Alice chuckled softly. "Yes, emotions can be difficult. They don't always make things easy, and they can sometimes make us question what's real or what's true. But they also make life more meaningful. It's the laughter shared with a friend, the comfort of a hug, the feeling of hope when things seem impossible. That's what makes being human so special." Zira floated quietly for a moment, her glowing form shimmering with thought. "I think I understand now. Emotions make humans human. They give your lives meaning. Without them, you would be like machines, acting but not really living." Alice smiled warmly at Zira. "Exactly. Emotions are what connect us to the world and to each other. They make us care, and they remind us of what's truly important." As they stood there together, staring out at the stars, Zira's thoughts drifted back to the crew. She had seen how each person expressed their emotions in their own way. Ben, for example, was quick to smile and often found humor in even the most difficult situations. Dr. Martin was quiet but passionate about his work, his love for life evident in the way he cared for the plants and animals he studied. And Alice. Alice was a leader, strong and calm, but also deeply empathetic. She could sense the moods of the crew and knew when to offer support. Zira had learned so much from them all. She was beginning to see the intricate tapestry of human relationships, the way each emotion weaved together to form a connection that was more than just logic. "I want to understand more," Zira said suddenly, turning to Alice. "I want to understand all of it. The joy, the sadness, the love. I want to know what it feels like to experience emotions the way humans do. Can I learn to feel them?" Alice's heart swelled with affection for the alien. "It's not something you can just learn overnight, Zira. Emotions are complex, and they come in their own time. But I believe you are on the right path. You're already understanding more than most. And the more you experience, the more you'll start to feel. Zira nodded, her eyes bright with determination. Then I will continue to learn. I want to know what it's like to be human, to experience the world the way you do. Alice smiled, and we'll be here to help you. You're not alone in this, Zira. As the two of them stood in the observation room, looking at the stars, Zira felt a strange sense of peace. She had come a long way since her first awkward question about human reproduction. Now, she was learning about something far more profound, the power of human emotions and the deep connections they created. She wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was part of the crew. And in time, she would come to understand the beautiful, complex world of human feelings, one emotion at a time. Weeks passed, and Zira's understanding of human emotions grew stronger. The crew watched with admiration as she embraced each new experience with curiosity and openness. Each day brought more opportunities for learning, and the bond between Zira and the humans aboard the Tyler 7 space station grew ever stronger. One day, while the crew was gathered in the recreation room for a break, Zira floated in with an excited glow around her. She had a question, of course. She always had questions, but this time it was different. There was a sense of wonder in her voice, and Alice could see that Zira was eager to share something important. Alice, Zira said, her voice full of enthusiasm, I think I'm starting to understand love. Alice paused, her eyebrows raised in surprise. Oh, tell me more. Zira floated closer, her eyes wide, as if she were about to reveal a great discovery. I've been observing the crew. I've been watching how everyone interacts, how you all care for one another. It's not just about sharing meals or speaking words. It's something deeper. It's the way you look after each other, even in silence. It's the way you trust and support one another without needing to ask. I've seen Ben, Dr. Martin, and even you, Alice, doing things for each other without any expectation in return. There's an unspoken connection between all of you. It's like a bond that goes beyond logic, beyond reason. Alice smiled gently as Zira spoke. She had noticed this too, of course, but hearing it from Zira made her heart swell. Zira was beginning to understand something very important about human relationships, the subtle but powerful force of love. You're absolutely right, Zira, Alice said, her voice soft but full of warmth. Love is not always something you can see or measure. It's not always about big gestures or grand declarations. Sometimes it's the quiet support, the little things we do for each other, the moments when we just know someone needs us. Zira seemed to process Alice's words carefully. But how do you know when you feel love? Is it something you feel all the time, or is it just in certain moments? Alice thought for a moment. Love is not a constant feeling. It's something that grows over time. You may not always feel it strongly, but the bond is always there. It's in the trust, the care, and the willingness to be there for someone. Sometimes, love is a feeling of warmth and joy, but other times, it's a sense of peace that comes from knowing that someone will always be there for you, no matter what. Zira nodded, taking in Alice's words with deep thought. So love is not just a single emotion. It's a collection of feelings and actions that build over time. That's right, Alice replied. And the beautiful thing about love is that it's not just one thing. It can be different for everyone, and it can change over time. It's always evolving. Zira seemed to reflect on this idea. I think I'm beginning to feel it, but I'm not sure what it is yet. It's not as clear as my curiosity or my excitement, but there's something there, a warmth inside me that grows when I'm with all of you. Alice smiled. That's a good sign, Zira. That warmth is a sign that you're starting to feel love. It's the beginning of understanding the depth of human connection. Zira's glowing form shimmered as she thought. I want to understand it fully. I want to feel it the way you all do. Alice's heart swelled with affection for Zira. You're on the right path. Love isn't something you can force or rush. It's something that comes naturally over time. And as you continue to build these relationships, you'll understand more and more. Zira nodded eagerly. I will continue to observe. I will learn from you all. I want to experience this love fully. That afternoon, the crew gathered to watch a movie in the recreation room. Zira joined them, of course, eager to understand more about human behavior. They all sat together, and as the movie played, the crew found themselves laughing at the funny scenes, sharing glances during the touching moments, and even exchanging a few quiet words when the scene got emotional. Zira watched the humans carefully. She saw how they connected over shared experiences, how they laughed and cried together. It wasn't just about the movie. It was about the way they were together, the way they understood each other's feelings without needing words. After the movie, as they all sat in a comfortable silence, Zira spoke up, her voice thoughtful. I think I understand more now. Love is not just about what you feel. It's about what you share with others. It's about the connection between you and the people you care about. It's about how you help each other grow and be better. Alice looked at Zira, amazed at how much she had learned. Exactly, Zira. Love is about sharing your life with others, supporting them through good times and bad. It's about being there for each other when it counts. Zira's glowing form brightened with joy. I feel like I'm starting to understand human relationships more than I ever thought possible. There's so much depth, so much emotion. It's beautiful. Alice smiled warmly. It is beautiful, isn't it? And the more you experience, the more you'll come to appreciate the power of human love. It's what connects us all, no matter where we come from. As the days went on, Zira continued to observe the crew. She was becoming more and more adept at understanding the subtle emotions that passed between them. She saw how Ben would always check in on Dr. Martin after a long day of work, how Dr. Martin would quietly support Alice during difficult decisions, and how Alice always made sure everyone felt included and valued. It was clear to Zira now. Love was not just a single feeling, but a web of emotions and actions that connected them all. Zira had come a long way from the innocent alien who didn't understand human emotions. Now she was beginning to experience the warmth of love herself, and it was something she would cherish forever. The days aboard the Sci-Fi space station passed by in a blur of activity, learning, and connection. Zira, who had once been a curious observer, was now an integral part of the crew. Her understanding of human emotions and relationships had grown in ways that even Alice had not expected. Yet, Zira knew there was still so much more to learn. One evening, as the crew sat together in the lounge, Zira floated over to Alice with a contemplative look. Alice noticed the thoughtful expression on her alien friend's face and smiled warmly. "What's on your mind, Zira?" she asked, her voice gentle and kind. Zira hesitated for a moment before answering. "I've been thinking about everything I've learned from you all. About love, emotions, and connections. But there's still one thing I don't quite understand fully. I see how much you care for one another. But what happens when you feel hurt, when someone you care about is in pain?" Alice paused, sensing the weight of Zira's question. She had seen how much Zira had grown, but this was a deeper question, one that touched on the more painful aspects of being human. "It's a difficult thing, Zira," Alice said softly. "When someone we care about is in pain, it hurts us too. But the most important thing is that we don't face it alone. We help each other through it, and we don't give up on each other." Zira's glowing eyes flickered with understanding. "So, love isn't just about the good times. It's also about being there during the hard times." "Yes," Alice replied. "Love is about support, even when things are difficult. It's about standing by someone, offering comfort, and showing them that you care. It's not always easy, but it's what makes the bond stronger." Zira floated back, her mind racing. She had seen the crew face challenges before. There were times when the stress of long missions had taken a toll, when the isolation of space had seemed unbearable. But each time, the crew had pulled together. They had supported each other, offering strength when one of them was weak, and comfort when one of them was sad. "I've seen it," Zira said, her voice thoughtful. "I've seen how you support each other." When Ben was feeling down about being away from his family, Dr. Martin gave him extra time to talk. When you were struggling with a tough decision, Alice, everyone was there to listen, even if you didn't ask for help. Alice smiled, touched by Zira's words. "That's right. Sometimes just being there for someone is enough. And sometimes we need to lean on each other to get through the tough moments. That's what love really means, being there, no matter what." Zira's form glowed softly, a sense of peace settling over her. "I think I'm beginning to understand it more now. Love is not just a feeling. It's an action. It's how you show you care, even when things aren't perfect. And sometimes, it's in the quiet moments, the moments when words aren't needed." Alice nodded, pleased with how much Zira had learned. "Exactly. And it's that understanding that makes us stronger. It's that connection that keeps us going." As the days passed, Zira continued to observe the crew, learning the subtle ways humans express care for one another. She noticed how Ben would always take time to listen to others, how Dr. Martin would quietly offer help even when he wasn't asked, and how Alice would always make sure that everyone felt heard and valued. The crew's unity was undeniable, and Zira now understood that their strength came not just from their skills or knowledge, but from the love they shared. One afternoon, the crew gathered together to discuss their upcoming mission. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, but also a quiet determination. Zira, who had spent so much time observing, spoke up. "I've learned a lot from all of you. I've seen what it means to care for others, to love, and to support one another. And now, I want to be part of that too. I want to contribute to this mission, not just with my knowledge, but with my heart." Alice looked at Zira, a proud smile crossing her face. "Zira, you've already shown us that you understand what it means to be part of a team. You've given us so much already, and now we're ready to work together to face whatever comes next." Zira's glowing form shimmered with happiness. "Thank you. I'm ready to be part of this crew, to be part of your world. And I promise I will always be there for all of you, just as you have been there for me." As the crew went back to their work, Zira felt a deep sense of contentment. She had come a long way since she first arrived on the space station, full of questions and uncertainty. Now she was no longer just an observer. She was a friend, a teammate, and a member of the crew. For Zira, this was the final lesson, the understanding that love and connection were the foundation of everything. It wasn't just about knowledge or logic. It was about sharing experiences, supporting each other, and standing together in the face of challenges. As the stars twinkled outside the space station's windows, Zira looked out into the vastness of the universe, knowing that, no matter how far she traveled, she would always carry the lessons of love and friendship with her. And in that moment, she understood something even more profound. The greatest discoveries were not always about exploring the unknown, but about discovering the strength and warmth that comes from being together.